I feel like it's always going to be a gender thing in the culinary world.
Honestly, it's like, how? Like, it's like, I don't know how it's going to change, honestly.
I just think the industry's very different than what it used to be.
It's worked for a million years. Why are we changing it? Because it fucking sucks.
Like, what's the part that needs to change? You know, why do I need to be an asshole?
Keep fighting the good fight and do what you love and don't let anyone say that you can't.
You know, as much as right now we can say that, yes, it is a male-dominated industry, we're coming up.
You're listening to Copper and Heat, the podcast exploring the unspoken rules and traditions of restaurants. I'm Katy Osuna, and our producer, Rachel, is with me again today.
Hi, Katy.
Hello. You'll be hearing more from Rachel in this episode and the next, but this is the second episode in our mini-series celebrating 5 years of Copper and Heat. So we've been going back to our first season that we released way back in 2018, and checking in on where the industry was then and where it is now, and also checking in with some of my friends that I talked to back then. So in the previous episode, we looked at how some of the data has changed, or rather how it hasn't really changed as far as women working up the brigade, and I caught up with my friend Edelyn about her experience working up to the position of chef. In this episode, we're checking in with Courtney.
My name's Courtney. At the moment, I'm doing some consulting work and just kind of spreading the pastry love. My big project that I've been working on is Gelato Coco.
When I talked to her 5 years ago, she was a pastry cook at Manresa, trying to figure out what a future in fine dining might look like for her.
I do want a family. You know, I want to be a mom, and like that is what I want to do. I think the big struggle is thinking about, like, when my mom had me and my brother, she was a stay-at-home mom while we were growing up before we went to school. And then once we started school, she went back to working. I'm like, oh man, it's hard to think about if I had kids, or, you know, when I have kids, like, well, do I stay home? Am I going to feel guilty for not staying at home? But then am I going to be like, not disappointed, but like, am I going to feel like, oh, but I did all of that work. You know, I worked so hard to get to wherever you're at in your career. And then you're like, well, now I'm going to leave it for a great reason, but you're still kind of leaving it. It is hard to think about, for sure. It's a struggle.
So talking to Courtney 5 years ago was very interesting because she was still at Manresa as a pastry cook. And since then, all the things happened. She got married and Manresa actually closed for good. So a lot of things happened even besides the pandemic for Courtney.
5 years later, in a post-Manresa world, which is pretty wild.
Seriously.
Yeah, it's weird. I was listening back to the first season, and it's interesting to hear. I walked away with the impression of just, oh my God, Courtney, you were so young. And I was, 24, 25, still really trying to figure out how to grow in the industry, how to grow professionally. I think I felt pretty lost and just overwhelmed in general of who am I? What do I do? What do I want to do? How do I want to behave? And figuring out this professional side of me as opposed to just as an individual.
Yeah. So in the last 5 years, a lot of things happened. Mm-hmm. What were some of the points of pivot and change for you?
Yeah. The pandemic obviously was a shit show, and it gave everyone an opportunity to think about, what do I really want to do? And I think a lot of people did not say, I want to go back to work in the kitchen, which is fair. For me,
I really, really, really wanted to go back to work because before I was no longer a pastry cook. I was really fighting hard to become a pastry chef. So I had been given this promotion. I felt like I was really finally hitting my stride. And then COVID happened. And I was like, fuck. I was really, really determined to prove it to myself because I had just struggled so much with self-doubt. I really felt like my biggest fear was not, it was really just, what if you're not good enough? That was my biggest fear. So I couldn't wait to get back to work so that I could prove to myself and to whoever else. But I certainly wanted to prove it to myself that I could do it and that I could become pastry chef that deserved the title of pastry chef. And again, the first season, talking a lot about, you're a woman, you're working, and then you're like, oh, I want to have a family, or, oh, I don't. And, really navigating that. And when I was talking to Michael, we're like, okay, we want to have a family. How is this going to work? This is also peak Manresa days. And when I really didn't have a team, like a lot of the time it was just me. Like I was there from 9-10 in the morning all the way through to service and breakdown. When you think about the schedule and rhythm of a family, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So how involved do I want to be? What's the lifestyle that I want to provide for my children? And is that possible with the path that I'm on at the moment? And no, it's not. It's just, that's not the way that I want to live. I mean, of course, I could have come up with things like, if you have a team, it's going to be easier, this and that. But just thinking, is that the way that I want to live my life? Like, no.
Yeah.
Both my parents worked when I was growing up. My mom was home when my brother and I were really little, but then once we started school, she went back to work. But for the most part, we would always have dinner together. Even if we got like takeout, which is pretty common because both of them were working, we would still sit down at the table and have a family dinner every night. And I was like, yeah, I want that. That was a big part of my childhood and I particularly enjoyed it. And so that's something that I decided to do with our own family when that happened. So you can't do that if you're in dinner service. So I knew, okay, I need to figure something out. And what is that thing going to be? So when I didn't have a thing that it was going to be, it was really hard for me to think about leaving Manresa or fine dining. I was like, man, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I had worked so hard to get to this point. And, since I was like 12, I wanted to be a restaurant pastry chef. So to finally have that position, it's like, oh my God, I've worked so hard and like, I'm here. It was difficult to say goodbye to that, even though I was still living that life. It came down to like, what's going to make it is selfish. It sounds really selfish saying it out loud. And frankly, it might be. But, two things can be true at once. I can be selfish and also looking out for the best for my family and my husband and everything else. So, like, if I'm pissed because I'm like, I'm not just, gonna have babies and like stay home and that's not what is calling to me, then I'm probably going to be a piece of shit person.
Now, what are you doing? You are not in fine dining currently.
Not in fine dining. Nope. Burn it. No.
But okay, before we laugh that off, you don't want to go back to being a pastry chef. You're going to do something else?
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm doing some consulting work and just kind of spreading the pastry love. But my big project that I've been working on is Gelato Coco. I'm super excited. We're going to, start cranking out some gelato, hopefully pretty soon here. Once I decided, okay, I want to open my own spot and I want to make gelato, and it has really started to come to life. was like, oh, fuck this. Why have I been wasting my time? Not wasting my time, but why have I been doing, something else for that long when this is so exciting? And, closing Manresa was really sad. It was really hard. But it was also exciting because now I'm like, okay, now Gelato Coco is the only thing that I have. All the eggs in one basket. Like, let's go. We're doing it. And then it became really easy to say goodbye to that.
So I mentioned this in the last episode. So if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to that because we kind of dug into the data of people leaving the industry. But something that I talked about in the last episode is just anecdotally how that played out with the people that I talked to in the first season. So 2018, first season of Copper and Heat, I talked to 5 women and 6 men. And all of the women except one had decided to leave restaurants. Some of them still work in the industry in different ways, like catering or like what we just heard from Courtney, but they're not working full-time in restaurants. And of the 6 men, 2 left, but 4 stayed in restaurants and worked their way up. And I think it's really interesting anecdotal information, and we can, theorize and generalize based on that. But like data-wise, who is considered a chef and who gets recognition in the industry is also really telling as to why maybe women might want to leave. I mean, there's a lot of things and it's complicated, but here's a clip from 5 years ago.
There's been a big push in the restaurant industry over the last several years about representation and recognition. Media outlets and awards have paid particular attention to the gender issue, especially in the aftermath of Me Too. Bon Appetit's Best Restaurants list went from having 2 to 5 women in positions of leadership. Food and Wine top chefs went from 3 out of 10 in 2017 to 6 in 2018. And in 2018, over half of James Beard Award winners were women or people of color. Here's the interesting thing, though. There's been a lot of talk over the last 5 years about being better about representing and recognizing chefs that are ladies and women of color. And representation has increased. In looking at the data, can you guess the change in how many women are chefs or head cooks? Maybe it's got up 5-10%? Not so much. As of 2017, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that around 19% of chefs identify as women and 9% identify as women of color. And that hasn't really changed in at least the last 15 years, since 2003.
Yeah. So, like we said in the last episode, in the last 5 years, the number of women in chef positions hasn't really gone up since 2018. But okay, to what we wanted to talk about. What about the awards and recognition part of that tape?
Okay, so we did some research. We looked back at it. And the James Beard Award winners in 2018, over half were women and people of color. In 2023, of the 28 awards, there were like 2 or 3 white men and the rest were women and people of color. Right? Food and Wine, Best New Chefs. 2018, there were 6 women. In 2022, there were 6 women, and one of them was like with their brother.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bon Appetit, Best New Restaurants. In 2018, of the 24 restaurants, 5 were owned by women. In 2022, there were 5 restaurants owned by women, but they all had co-owners. Right? And then there was 1 genderqueer owner.
So interesting.
Right?
5 years, and funnily enough, James Beard was the one that had like the most change as far as people who were represented on the winners list.
Mm-hmm.
The other two, like, it wasn't, it was the exact same
really
number.
No change. Yeah, it's exactly the same.
What the Bon Appetit one really surprised me because it was like 24 and only 5 women, and all of them were with a male co-owner of some sort.
That's really surprising.
Huh. I don't know, but I mean, like you said, obviously there's a lot of diversification that needs to happen. That's not just like, we're women.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So these lists were like not very Eurocentric, which is cool.
Yeah, it's an oversimplification, or it's like white feminism to be like, there just needs to be more women. Like, it's definitely more nuanced and there's much more intersections than that. So
yeah,
I don't think any of these lists are like taking incredible strides in any directions, but it is good to see them be, less Eurocentric. And
yeah. And I do wonder, because I think that was something that we did talk about in the last episode of the first season. So there's the media attention component of it. But does that mean that that's going to change what happens in restaurants? That like all of a sudden, because women are getting more attention, there are going to be more women in restaurants. Yeah, it does kind of go back to the stats that we were talking about at the beginning, is like women are still not working their way up. There's still 50% women in the industry as a whole, and even 50% women like in the back of house, and yet they're not making their way to chef positions or owner positions, and then not getting media attention.
really surprising to me. I don't know if it's just because I am not working in kitchens, so I have like the media concept of it. Just expected there to be like at least a slight shift in the numbers, but it really seems like the numbers have stayed really the same.
Yeah.
And I understand that 5 years is short, but opening a restaurant does not take 5 years.
No, and also so many places have like closed and opened in the last 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. It's been such a big change, but the numbers don't change.
So 2018, like chefs and head cooks, like women chefs and head cooks were making like 90 cents for every dollar that a man made. Would you like to guess what the number was in? I could only get 2021 data. I couldn't get 2022. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Over under. Do you think it went up or down?
I think it went down. I looked.
I really led you into that one. Because that is not, I thought it would at least have gone up or stayed the same. It went down. It's 84 cents now. 84 cents on the dollar.
That's still a lot.
Like, that is not what I thought it would do. And that was also 2021. So maybe that's changed. Maybe that was like pandemic shit. But like, I don't know. And the other thing, so like going back to the data, so the chefs and head cooks, it was like in 2018, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So this is like their numbers. It was like 22% women. 2022 was 26. So it like looks like it went up. But then like cooks, it was 41% in 2018. And now it's 38% in 2022. It's interesting because it seems like there are like more, the people who actually stayed in the industry, the women that stayed in the industry have worked their way up more maybe.
Right.
But also women are leaving the industry who are like not joining the industry. So I don't know. It's all very interesting. I don't know what to make of all of it.
Yeah, it's hard to decipher it all.
Thank you so much for celebrating 5 years of Copper and Heat with us and listening to this special mini-series. We'll be back next week with another episode, the last one. And in a few weeks, we're also going to be dropping another collaborative mini-series we did with the Southern Smoke Foundation, where we discuss mental health with some different chefs. So make sure to follow us in your favorite podcast app or on social media to hear more about that.
And thanks so much to Courtney for talking with us on this episode and 5 years ago.
This episode was produced by me, Katie Osuna, and...
Oh, me, Rachel Palmer.
And music was by Ricardo Osuna. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.